You know what we haven't done in a while and forever? We have not talked about any school threats. And I think it's time that I start catching you guys up on what's been on these school threats. Because let me tell you something. It's no joke when somebody makes a threat to our nation's schools. And believe me, I know a lot about education. How the hell you guys think I started this show 6 years ago? I went to school, I never made threats, I never got in trouble, I listened, followed directions, etc. I know what goes on in these public schools. I watched Stupid in America several times. And believe me, I damn well know. Two Cincinnati public school officials received social media text threats and apparent to swatting incidents. In Cincinnati, there were two public schools that were dealing with swatting situations. Let's start with Gamble, Missouri High. It was placed on a lockout as Cincinnati police investigated a school threat yesterday morning. D. Iro Schroeder High School is also dealing with a swatting situation. Police cars have been surrounding Schroeder's front entrance and the parking lot. Now, if you don't know what swatting is, it involves fake 911 calls to deploy emergency responders. It's now that isn't real. And some of our algorithms are working on making swatting a felony charge. Past 3 months, there have been at least six threats made at various schools across the tri-state, including the incident at Turpin High, where a student was charged after allegedly threatening to shoot students up and blow up a bus. Since the start of the school year, there have been more than a dozen threats made against districts, schools, teachers across the tri-state. IDEA student was arrested after making threats to students and staff. Authorities say it was here in Texas. A student in Edinburgh was taken into custody after allegations of making verbal threats to classmates. A 16-year-old student made comments threatening to cause bodily injury to staff and students attending school, according to news released from the city of Edinburgh. The student was taken into custody and was transported to Hidalgo County Juvenile Facility on Tuesday when a teenager was charged with a third-degree felony of terroristic threat. They arrested an 18-year-old was arrested for emailing threats of violence to the Mason County Community School District over the weekend. According to police, Destiny Cadus of Mason City faces felony threat charge of terrorism. He also faces charges of marijuana possession. They said they received the threats from an unidentified email account. The police say despite the threat, they were providing enhanced police presence at the schools on Monday. Two juveniles charged with airdropping threats to students at Marion High. On Monday, they closed at noon after several students told the administrators received threatening messages to adopt their phones. According to the release from the sheriff's office, two juveniles were charged with unlawfully communicate with threat in writing, electronically transmitting communication, and producing a visual electronic image to another to kill, do serious bodily injury to the person, and such threat was made to the intent to compel the emergency evacuation of Marion Senior High School. One of the juveniles was also charged with VA Code 18.2461, paragraph I, unlawfully knowingly give a false report to the commission of any crime to any law enforcement official misleading. Both juveniles are hearings in the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court, and the identities of juveniles were not released. As the juveniles. An arrest was made in the email threats of violence to MC Community School District. Now, in Iowa, an arrest has been made where the police department reports threats, violence emailed to communities on Saturday. The city school district report email threats of violence have been received during the overnight hours of an unidentified email account. The MCPD began an investigation into the source of the threats with the help of their state and federal law partners. By early Saturday evening, they were able to identify the threats have come from local residents. They're working with the school district to provide enhanced police presence at the impacted facilities on Monday morning. A 7th grader was charged with a connection with the alleged threat made to Lebanon Special School District. In Tennessee, a 7th grader has been charged after investigators said they were able to connect the student with a concerning post made on a Snapchat over the weekend. Monday morning, they announced that the student responsible was identified. In addition to the charges, students will face school disciplinary actions. It was the second possible school threat investigation that morning. In a Facebook post, they said the deputies will continue to work closely with the school and will not take potential threats lightly. There's been rumors of threats going on in campaign. The full statement was all like says in part. Law enforcement worked with administrators to investigate rumors of threats which were determined to be unfounded. Abundance of caution, police has been increased. And a pair of schools going to lock out social media text threats. CPS says every threat is taken for seriously investigated by themselves. Any school should be reported immediately to the school leadership. They want their statement. In addition, any person making real or false threat may face criminal charges and potential fines. That's what the law says. So the bottom line here is this: if you're going to make a threat, don't be making threats. Okay, when you choose to behave, you choose the consequences. That's basically the whole key here. And 12 hours ago, Oaks in lockdowns, because in Illinois there's been lots of lockdowns happening. And since then, there's been a lot of school threats. Because the key here is social media. All these threats happen on social media because they just want to get out of school. Nobody cares about their education. And police are up on this because a message is not being sent out to the parents very well. Nobody gets the message. Do not make threats, period. Otherwise, you could be going to jail, you'd be sitting in jail and wondering, I should not have made that threat. It's too late for apologies. Very too late. Election time was over on Tuesday, and there's a lot of reaction to the school election. Coming up, Flower Bluff reacts for a tax proposal not passed. Then we go to Great Laporte where the same thing is happening, where was denied the same thing that Flower Bluff did. Stay with us. This made some reaction to Flower Bluff to where they said no on a tier. It was a tax rate that could be raised from the state, but they said no. Now the superintendent is weighing in. On this. And it could be increased by 2 years, so what's going to happen now? Here's Hale on these.
We would have to look at our staffing ratios. Class sizes would probably continue to increase. And then we would have to look at programs.
Ahead of Election Day, Flower Bluff ISD Superintendent Velma Solis Garcia told us what would happen if the district's voter approval tax ratification election, or VATER, didn't pass.
We are a premier school district. We offer some great programs, and people come to our school district because of that. They move into our area because of the programs and the teachers and the staff that we have.
The rate would have been lower than previous ones, but it would have raised $3.4 million more because property values in the area have increased. Solis Garcia says FBISD has a lower tax rate than other districts, but they've also historically paid teachers less.
Very sad again. Teachers play a very big, important role in every person's life. Those people are the people who help you learn and help you grow.
Garcia says this year they approved teacher and staff pay raises, but they need more funds to maintain those raises and remain competitive with other districts.
My daughter right now, her first grade teacher was my first grade teacher. And so to hear that hurts me because, you know, they're already struggling. They're already having to ask for things from us.
FBISD parent Daniela Grimes says she understands why people voted no to VATER.
I'm partial to it. I mean, I get that everybody, you know, we don't want our taxes to go up. Everybody's struggling, especially recovering and whatnot.
The only thing that we could do next is put a plan in place for the next time that we could go out for a TRE. And the TRE can only be on the ballot on a general election year.
And I reached back out to the district today to get a response, and I'm still waiting to hear back. Pat.
Taylor, thanks so much.
And it could happen again to other school districts. A bit later on, I'm going to go to Port. We're probably going to go to Portland to hear their reaction about we're going to go to regular Portland to where probably the same thing has happened. But the bond election has failed, and that's that's probably very similar to what's happening in Fire Bluff. So I'm not going to be raising any concerns about this because I don't want to start tipping the scales or jumping into conclusions without having the evidence first. I mean, if you're going to make allegations, you got to have evidence first before you start jumping to conclusions. You don't just jump to conclusions right away. No, you got to look at the facts first before you start jumping to a conclusion. Because if you start jumping to conclusions, you're obviously making an allegation. So that's just basically what needs to happen. So the programs have to be looked at, this and this. So in the case of what's been going on here, I mean, taxes are like, we don't want our taxes to raise again. So let's just look at let's talk about the election. So in case you missed Tuesday's election, the mayor wins the seat again. Mayor Paula Guando wins the mayor's seat again. Has to be reelected. But the new judge this year is Connie Scott, who's replaced by Barbara Canales. Now, in case you don't remember, if you heard about this story from the Chronica, there was a story on them that Conti Uriarte was fired because of that incident from the port, where Sean Strawbridge was involved in this, and Judge Barbara Canales was involved in this, saying that she was lying. But I'm not gonna start throwing this, because she's a member of this fan club, and if I start throwing members on the bus, I'm probably gonna lose a lot more members. So I'm not gonna drop this. I'm not gonna have people drop the ball on this. So what needs to happen here is we're just gonna have to let it slide. Cloud defeats Perez for the U.S. House District 7. And it's been good. Going into sports now, there was a head coach for the Sinton head coach inks his commitment to the district bet. And I gotta tell you, I was surprised at this. A head coach tattoos his arm going, I'd imagine, I tattoo this arm, put an FB for Flower Bluff. I find a maroon and white, or a red, white, and blue. I'd probably get a reaction to that. I'd probably get a reaction to that. Really. But let's talk about Connie Scott. I mean, she's a new judge, but what else can you know about her from a personal perspective? So let's take a look from the brand new Nueces County judge, Connie Scott, who defeated Barbara Canales after that port incident that led that had Conti Uriarte fired. If you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about.
It's one day makes, right? And what a difference.
And there's a difference to what today makes, so take a look.
Evening for candidates across the country. And even though there was a smile on Connie Scott's face at the end of the night, the day and in fact week leading up to the election were far from easy.
We'd been told pretty much all along that it was going to be a very difficult race, very challenging, and we were told that if we did come out ahead, even in the early voting, that it would be a very tight race.
Scott ended up winning the election by almost 11 percentage points, and now has the title of judge-elect. But even before taking the gavel in January, the real work of transitioning begins.
I intend to do everything I can to get informed. I have some meetings set up with some other county judges around the area that have already called for a luncheon. Some of the other commissioners have set up meetings for me to try to get me involved in what's going on. Going in, number one, will be reestablishing the trust and the working relationships with the commissioners and then with the community as well, and with the city council, with the port, and I've already reached out to them, and in fact, they reached out to me.
And while Scott has a laundry list of priorities, tackling job vacancies at the courthouse, addressing the old Nueces County Courthouse, and crumbling infrastructure of the county jail, she says all those priorities will require consensus.
Remembering that I am one of 5. It is not my agenda. It's not my plan. We have to work together with the commissioners and move forward as a unit, as an entity that all represent the people here throughout the community.
Scott tells Chris 6 News that she has plans to ask commissioners to support the hiring of a forensic auditor to review the county's financials.
We have not requested it yet, but it is definitely something that I believe is necessary. Yeah, just so we have the fact.
Yeah, and we will, of course, be having many more conversations with County Judge-elect Scott ahead of her first day in office, and we have been assured that if and when those audits come out, the 6i team as well as the public will have access.
And so will I after this has been aired, and so we'll keep you posted on what's been happening. Speaking of keep you posted, you may have heard about all these officers and the police chief who has been fired from Uvalde for their role in that horrific shooting. Up next, we're going to update you on what's been happening with new video footage as it's been going on. Then, Greg LaPointe has his reaction to the election bond being failed and the reason behind this. Plus, what's the biggest problem facing public schools? I told you about this years ago, but now it's a revisit because of what's been happening with all of these. It's the problem of money. Stay with us. Let's get you up to speed on Uvalde right now. If you heard about the election, despite outrage over the Robb Elementary mass shooting, Uvalde residents voted to keep the state's GOP in power. They planned to voters to consider candidates who would support gun control in the area as law-supporting Republicans. In that aftermath, it calls for gun reform as fewer pitched outraged Texans blamed state leaders and the firearm policies they championed for being partially responsible for the massacre. Tuesday, however, that outrage still exists for some of the small community. Now remember, if you watched the election, Greg Abbott was re-elected as governor over his challenger, Beto O'Rourke. The county also voted overwhelmingly to keep Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Attorney General Ken Paxton, both Republicans. In August, the school district's police chief, Peter O'Donnell, was fired in his role. Although they hoped for different results Tuesday, relatives and friends from the victims did achieve what they considered partial victories over the year. Last month, officials with the Uvalde School District announced it has suspended its police force and that 2 ranking officers have been placed on administrative leave. That's the update so far. Just 2 days ago on CNN, the judge seals autopsy reports of that mass shooting. According to CNN, Judge Camille DeBosi of the 38th District Court on Friday ordered the records be sealed and provided to the local district attorney for the purpose of assisting the investigation of potential prosecution or prosecutions connected to the ongoing investigation. The motion to seal the records, prosecutors argue that the autopsy could reveal information that authorities need to preserve until the investigation of the shooting is completed. State officials have repeatedly misstated the timeline in the action of the 376 new law enforcement right now who arrived on the scene, and Uvalde Ramirez accused the DTP of a cover-up. It remains unclear whether some of those who died have survived, and they have received prompt medical care for their wounds. I heard about now. What I told you about, I heard there was a new body cam video. I saw it said hours ago. I'm not sure, but let me look this up. I think I saw it. I'm not sure. I think I see it, but if I must have misunderstood. If I misunderstood, I'm very sorry. But a new update has been going on. Oxford High shooting survivors go to Texas to bring comfort to the victims of the Uvalde shooting. It's 1 year because the 1 year anniversary of Oxford is gonna be coming up. Shortly after Thanksgiving. I'm gonna have a special Give Me a Break presented to that issue. So again, it's gonna be a Give Me a Break special about 1 year Uvalde, 1 year later. So that's going to be in about... That's a special Give Me a Break Wednesday, which is going to be 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. So we'll have that special for you in about 3 weeks. So be sure to look for that. Earlier, you heard me talk about Flower Bluff ISD's reacting to the Vertier not passing. Coming up, we're going to turn to Gregory Portland, where they react to the election bond being denied or probably failed because probably a money issue. But is it? Stay with us. Earlier in the broadcast, we talked about Flower Bluff ISD's reaction of the of them being denied the Vertier plan, which was a tax plan increasing up to 2 years for the 2024 plan from the state. Now it's very similar to the bond that's happening. It's an increase in tax rate for the $242 million. So listen.
In Gregory Portland, the school district's $242 million bond proposal did not pass. The bond would have gone towards new facilities, renovations to existing ones, and enhanced security and safety measures for schools. Superintendent Michelle Cavazos is telling us she was very disappointed by the low turnout at the polls and hopes voters will reconsider it again in the future.
So the question is, could it be similar to Flower Bluff? Could it be similar to Flower Bluff? I think so. First of all, if it's very similar, it's like killing two birds with one stone. This is probably very similar. Like Flower Bluff, I mean, they have to look at the programs, but if Gregory Portland could do the same, they'd have to make some cutbacks. Look at the programs, how much it costs in this, but every time let me tell you guys something. I've been watching Stupid in America over 10 times, and there's always a question pops, and the question always pops in my damn head. The question always is, what's the biggest problem facing public schools? And always, the answer just pops. It's money. That is what everybody says. It's a lack. It's a lack of money. It's always that lack of money. And many people waste money at these schools. So here's John Stossel.
At this California rally, teachers told us schools need much more money.
There's nothing that money can't fix.
In Massachusetts, parents baked cookies and sold all sorts of things.
To raise money for a school system that is desperately trying to make ends meet.
More money, please, say the South Carolina school officials. How much money would be right?
How much? Ooh, millions. And it would really make it right.
They're spending $10,000 per kid now. $15,000? $20,000?
$20,000, $25,000, $30,000. The more the better.
The more the better. That was the thinking years ago when a judge ordered more must be spent on Kansas City schools. So they did. $2 billion more. Kansas City built this Olympic-sized swimming pool, state-of-the-art gyms with indoor track, these computer labs and more. They had so much money that when they wanted to bring in more white kids, they didn't just bus them.
The Kansas City district used about 120 taxis.
But the result of all this spending on student achievement? It got worse. By 2000, Kansas City schools failed to meet any of the state standards, and they lost their accreditation.
If money were the solution, the problem would already be solved.
Jay Green is the author of Education Myths.
We've doubled per pupil spending, adjusting for inflation, over the last 30 years, and yet schools aren't better.
Adjusted for inflation.
Adjusted for inflation. We now spend more than $10,000 per pupil per year.
Here's a graph of the increased spending. The line goes straight up, but student achievement, flat. Graduation rates, flat. The extra money didn't help the kids.
How can that be? More money but no results? It's a lot of money. Think about it, $10,000 per student. For a classroom of 25, that would be $250,000 per year. Where does the money go? It certainly isn't all going to teach the kids.
In Orange County, California, Jennifer Beal's kids have been learning in portable buildings like this, while her school district's spending $35 million to build a new building. Not for the kids, it's for administrators.
It's insane. We call it the Taj Mahal. It's so enormous and overwhelming.
You can give public schools all the money in America and it will not be enough. Everyone has been conned. I'm not doing it today, okay?
Ben Chavis is a former public school principal who now runs this alternative school that spends thousands of dollars less per student. He laughs at the public school's complaints about money.
They all say it's the answer. No, it's not. We just need a little more money.
That is the biggest lie in America. They waste money.
To save, Chavis asked the students to do things like keeping the grounds picked up and setting up for lunch.
We don't have full-time janitor. We don't have security guards. We don't have computers. We don't have a cafeteria staff.
Thanks, Dom.
There's no pool or world-class gym.
Hey, on your mark, get set, go!
For gym class, his students often just run laps around the block.
If you come to school, you're going to have the advantage over everyone else.
It means there's more money left over for teaching.
Is that a complete sentence or a fragment?
Even spending less money per student, Chavis pays his teachers more than public school teachers get.
Okay, so what?
His school also thrives because the principal gets involved. Chavis shows up at every classroom and uses gimmicks like small cash payments for perfect attendance.
Do you come to school for the money or do you come to school to get an education? And the money.
Since he took over 4 years ago, his school has gone from being among the worst in Oakland to being the best. His middle school has the highest test scores in the city.
You've boosted the scores from where they were by spending less money.
It's not about the money.
But what about kids who come from broken families, poor families?
Give me the poor kids, and I will outperform the wealthy kids who live in the hills. And we do it.
PR.
Other spunky independent schools do well with less money, like this one in South Carolina run by Teresa Middleton. We saw that the kids here were enthusiastic about learning.
My children are so excited. Can we play this today? Can we do popcorn? Can we do relay math? Can we play bingo? Can we play phonics around the world? Learning should be fun.
And fun seems to teach. These first graders can read.
Get ready to work.
I've had 3-year-olds sounding out words. My below average child can go to public school and make the honor roll.
Yet she spends only $3,000 per child versus the $9,000 South Carolina's public schools spend.
That's
and
$6,000.
still fail to
That's
educate students like
$6,000
Doreen
over.
Kane.
My son is now 18, and he is not reading. He's on a 4th grade level, and it's a huge problem.
You want to take a shot at that?
Dorian struggles to read just one sentence in this first grade book.
One day, Uncle Jack came to visit.
He says he wants to learn to read.
You know, there is a whole world that can open up to you if you are able to read.
Yeah, I know that.
Did they try to teach you to read?
From time to time. The test results back.
Gene has been after Dorian's schools for help for years.
You have to beg. You know, whatever you ask for, you're begging because they have the power.
Now, they've had meetings with you to talk about your son.
Yes.
Here is one of them.
Good morning, I'm Fred Stevens, Director of Programs for Exceptional Children.
This is where some of the money goes to educational specialists. The Director of Programs for Exceptional Children, the school principal, a resource teacher, a gym teacher, the school counselor, and the district's special ed coordinator. But they hadn't done much for the boy who can't read.
Have you had the opportunity to counsel with Dorian?
Well, first of all, I really hadn't had the opportunity to really counsel with him. I'll be frank with you.
The principal said Dorian was doing well.
I've seen great progress in him, so I don't have any concern.
The meeting went on for 45 tedious minutes. Dorian looked defeated. His mother just kept raising the one issue that concerned her most.
The only issue I have is his reading level, and that's what's important to me.
All right, come on in and have a seat.
So we decided we'd send Dorian to a private learning center, Sylvan. Could they teach Dorian to read when the South Carolina public schools hadn't?
All right, click on OK for me.
You bet. After just 72 hours of instruction using computers and workbooks, Dorian's reading was up more than 2 grade levels. His mother loves the private program.
They're doing what they're supposed to do. They are on point, but I can't say the same for the public schools.
No, she can't. South Carolina, over 12 years, spent nearly $100,000 on Dorian's education, but they left him behind.
Okay. Future representatives, I'm going to play you some clips on from Stupid in America, because it's just a thing to talk about here. The only reason why I keep telling you this issue is because the question is always asked, where does the money go? And when I come back, I'm going to give you that answer. Stay tuned. There's a question in everyone's minds when it comes to education. Where does the money go? Where does most of the school funding go? Well, according to blog.olivet.com, about 80% of the spending goes to salaries and benefits, which is pretty typical for any large organization. $382 billion goes toward construction, most of which is teacher and salaries, benefits, but also includes some supplies, circular materials, and student technology. According to this chart, the state has 46%, which is $337 billion. Locals at 45%, which is $329 million. Federal is $55 billion. So for that 45.6%, it's probably money that local governments collect through property taxes. State funding, this comes from money that state governments collect throughout sales taxes, state income taxes, tolls, and other taxes fees. $55 billion. That comes from federal funding. That comes from federal government budget. It is generated from federal income taxes, payroll taxes, corporate taxes, and state taxes. Right off the bat, $90 billion goes to pre-committed expenses like capital projects, invest on debt, and new buildings towards athletic fields. That leaves $630 billion for operating expenses. $382 billion goes towards instruction, most for teacher salaries, student technology, and curricular materials for supplies. $248 billion goes towards support services for expenses, which includes operating school buildings with principals, facilities and grounds maintenance, HVAC systems, utilities, insurance, printing and copying, school security, supporting students with counselors, instructional support, transportation, health services, assistive devices, speech and language services, cafeteria food services, special education placement, libraries, HR finance systems, supporting teachers with curriculum development, professional development, managed curricular services like superintendent record keeping, assessment, and evaluation, and student data systems, etc. So now we know where it comes from, when it's all run by the government. And charter schools, even charter schools spend less money. So I think we might have time to check out charter schools that spend less money than the public schools.
School spending has tripled over the past 40 years. We now spend much more than other countries, but what do we get? Fancier schools, more assistant principals, but student learning? No improvement. Look at it. There's the line. For 40 years, scores have been flat. Much more money, no improvement. This is awful. But there is some good news. Around America, some very cool things are starting to happen. But school is boring.
No!
Yes, it is. I know. I went to school.
Grade school was boring. So was high school. So was Princeton. Except for the party parts. But 4th grade, you have to learn reading and writing. That's work.
Reading is work, but it's rockin' awesome.
Rockin'
Rockin' awesome? And these kids say school is fun?
Yes.
How is it fun to learn?
They just teach us in a fun way.
So you guys look forward to going to school in the morning?
Yes.
These kids attend one of those new charter schools. Free public schools, but their charter lets the school escape the bureaucracy of regular schools, including teachers' union rules. This school enrolls the inner city kids bureaucrats label at risk of failure. But these kids learn.
Devin is 100% on top of her game right now.
Going to our school is a ticket to educational success.
This woman runs several charter schools. All get outstanding test scores.
You do this all with the same money the public schools get?
We actually do it with less, $4,000 and $6,000 less per child.
How? For less money do they get the kids so interested?
You're interested in math and
Yes. Reading, writing.
But learning is work.
It don't matter.
The school day here is longer. Kids often stay till 5 p.m. Charter teachers can be asked to work more than the union would have allowed. They told us they don't mind.
But you're going to burn out. Why aren't you ticked off?
That's not an option for us because we kind of have our eye on the prize with these kids.
They use all sorts of new teaching techniques. Sometimes teachers wear earpieces during class and then they're coached by their bosses.
What are they telling you?
They're telling me things that I don't see. If I don't think of a great question in the moment, my principal is able to kind of feed that to me through the earpiece.
We kind of view teachers as athletes in the Olympics, and they need constant support and coaching to be at the top of their game.
Kids at this school constantly wave their hands around. It confused me, but then the students explained it's what they call active listening. Instead of interrupting class to blurt out, say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" or "I agree with that," the students make hand gestures.
What's the symbol for agree?
Oh. High test scores made these charters so popular that parents line up, hoping to get their kids admitted.
This line goes on and on. Forever. Goes around the block.
So many applicants, but not that many spaces.
So, what do you do when you have thousands of people and just a few hundred slots? They hold a lottery.
The winners are happy. Sadly, there are many more losers. On the other end of America, in Oakland, California, another charter chain gets similar top results using different methods.
Here's what I say. Give me the worst school in Oakland. Black, Mexican, polka dot. Give us the worst school anywhere in America. And we'll take it and we'll
I think we've already got the picture here. Charter schools spend less than the public schools. So you may ask me, should we go to charter schools? It's your choice to make. You want to go for, it's like this. It's cheap versus expensive. You want to get name brands or do you want to get off brands? Off brands are cheap. Name brands are expensive. So which do you go for? I would go, well, whatever floats your boat. I'm not going to get into this because as I talk about education a lot, I do not want to start throwing public schools under the bus because I really don't want to get under the skin or be examined. So, yeah. That's all I'll talk about here. That's Give Me a Break for this Wednesday going to Thursday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Friday. I hope you had a good day. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, it's your body, your choice. Have a good night.